It feels like somebody wants to sell me something!
I told you he was on to us!
Quacks and cults alike tend to be defined by two essential features. 1, the belief in and loyalty to outlandish, unsubstantiated ideas, and 2, a constant effort to recruit new followers through unethical or manipulative means. While those outside a given quack or cult's influence often see the first feature as mere absurdity worthy of mockery, the second feature is seen differently. Manipulative recruitment tactics are what give cults their chilling eeriness and quacks their predatory image. But nearly everywhere there are outlandish beliefs, there are unethical or predatory recruitment tactics. It isn't just the Jim Jones level cultists or the Deepak Chopra level quacks using these tactics. It's also some of the moms selling dietary supplements or the friendly people at your local church teaching Sunday school. The tactics I'll cover here can be used unknowingly and are commonly used by people who have fallen for them themselves. Cult leaders and professional snake oil salesmen, on the other hand, usually know exactly what they're doing. Unlike what I've done in previous videos in my series on quacks, here I'll list the tactics in question in the order in which they're often used. Preying on vulnerabilities. Most of the time, people don't come to beliefs through pure reason alone. There are always factors like emotion and psychological need to our decisions. Sometimes those are even the biggest factors to the assimilation of new beliefs. When a person is in a state of heightened emotion or psychological need, they're often vulnerable to succumbing to those factors during decision-making. This means they're more likely to accept ideas which are not evidence-based or even logically coherent. It's pretty easy to tell when another person is in a mental state like this. We know that people are vulnerable when they're very young, or when they're sick, heartbroken, uneducated, poor, scared, etc. So, naturally, quacks and cultists begin their recruitment by seeking out those who are in vulnerable states. When they inevitably find them, they'll tailor their message to play on the weaknesses of their targets. While this sounds malicious, it's usually done under the guise, or even the real intent, of compassion. Remember, plenty of people use this tactic without thinking of it as manipulative, but rather helpful. Evangelical mission work is essentially predicated on showing compassion to and helping vulnerable people in order to ultimately convince them of a foreign belief system, which is the real help they need. It really can be done out of kindness. Even when backed with good intentions, though, preying on the vulnerable is simply unethical. Let's take a look at some examples. As I've said, being young and uneducated is a vulnerable state. It's absolutely no mistake that Christians everywhere, especially evangelicals, hyper-target young people with their ideology.
Because over 70% of all decisions for Christ happen during a very precise window, from ages 4 to 14. And those who accept Jesus during this window are more likely to keep the faith. But that's not surprising, is it? Where the world sees immaturity or foolishness, God sees open windows, tender, trusting hearts, responsive to His leading. But today's children need our help.
Some Christian groups take this to a pretty serious extreme. I mean, do I even need to mention Jesus Camp?
I need you to get serious with God. Say, God, I'm here to be trained. I'm here for an education. I'm willing, God.
Those in multi-level marketing schemes also tend to prey on the vulnerable, especially those dealing with sickness or personal loss. It's so common that it's become a widely mocked trope at this point.
I'm sorry to hear your dad's having a rough time with chemo. How is he? I know now probably isn't the time you want to hear random info, but parabens in products and deodorants, etc. have been linked to causing cancer. Many patients have been advised to use paraben-free products such as Arben. Please tell me if you'd rather me bugger off, hon. I really wouldn't want to upset you or your family, but if you like, I could send you some info or products to try.
Giving easy answers and secret knowledge. This is a form of preying on specific vulnerabilities like social isolation, low self-worth, and existential anxiety, as well as lack of education. When you suffer any or all of those issues, you're likely to seek out and accept information or ideas that mitigate them. Isolation and low self-esteem seek out feeling value and connectedness, while existential anxiety seeks out feelings of meaning and significance. All those things can be found in the form of reductive answers to big questions, especially if those answers feel like privileged, suppressed, or even taboo information. Plenty of quacks and cultists will play to this by supposedly answering difficult and confusing questions with simple, easy-to-understand answers. They'll also make their ideas more appealing to some by indicating that they don't want you to know this, or this is the actual truth about such and such. When the supposed truth is both emotionally satisfying and a secret being suppressed by the powerful, it's easier to accept without much evidence behind it. One of the most dated cliché lines to simultaneously draw people in and excuse the lack of hard data backing alternative medicine is saying that Big Pharma is trying to suppress the fact that, insert natural cure here, works better than medicine.
Many of the constituents that are so effective in essential oils have been synthetically made and commercialized, and we use them in our daily lives and not even realize it. The pharmaceutical companies, they know they work. They don't want you to believe it is, but all they do is really try to copy that which nature has made and sell it to you.
It's also a much simpler, more exciting idea than a nuanced explanation of the burden of proof, the unscrupulous scientific testing all substances must undergo before becoming a drug, and the actual economic and moral pitfalls of our healthcare system. This tactic can also be found amongst countless cults and even mainstream religions in the fact that they say they have the truth with a capital T. They have the one true God. They have the one true scripture, etc. This is not only a reductive answer to the unknowns in the universe, but also a claim of privileged information. The foot in the door technique. Even if a quack or cultist has caught your attention by preying on your vulnerabilities and has made you feel special by telling you secrets, you still might have some reservations about their ideology. Early on in your curiosity, you might still be looking for red flags. If you quickly find them in the form of ideas more outlandish than the ones that first appealed to you, you might realize that new health supplement or religious group you're interested in is less than believable. So, of course, it's in a quack or cultist's best interest to display their most believable ideas up front and introduce their most unusual ones later in the game. Sometimes this takes the form of literally hiding parts of their belief system away until a person is considered ready to hear them, but more often, it just means that they strongly emphasize their least unusual beliefs over others. Once a person they're trying to recruit has become a part of their camp, they can start to let them in on the weirder ideas. Essentially, a quack starts with their foot in the door and slowly creeps all the way in. Hardly anyone is better at this than Mormons or David Avocado Wolfe. Mormons love to emphasize that they're just Christians like everyone else, and they constantly downplay the fact that they believe a supposed prophecy of a convicted con man that told them God is an ancient being with a physical body who lives on a planet near a star called Kolob. And on top of that,
then we're taught signs and passwords called tokens. We have to memorize them to be allowed into Heavenly Father's presence. If we show the signs to the guardian angels and tell them the passwords, they might let us in. And if we've earned it, then we will become exalted as gods. And can start creating and populating our own worlds.
So just what is the secret sign and password?
We can't tell you. We swear oaths not to talk about them.
Now, David Avocado Wolfe uses a slightly different version of this technique, which my friend Holy Kool-Aid explains in what is probably the best David Avocado Wolfe takedown ever made.
And although he comes across as a friendly, harmless sideshow Bob of a raw food eating teddy bear spreading happy flappy little memes, the truth gets pretty dark. So you're scrolling through Facebook when you see a meme like this, or this. Pretty innocuous, right? And then bam! He hits you out of nowhere with a quote from some apparent herbalist quack encouraging people not to seek medical treatment for cancer. Oh, and in case you're wondering, ND might as well stand for not doctor, since naturopaths are not medically licensed.
Isolating followers. Finally, once you've succumbed to propaganda and have even bought into some of the most ridiculous ideas a quack or cult has to offer, the question of the extent of your loyalty to the ideology arises. Sure, you might believe it all now, but what if outsiders influence you? What if they give you new information which contradicts what you now believe? Too much contact with outsiders' ideas will almost certainly erode some of the dogma you've accepted. Your new ideas will best thrive in isolation. Knowing this, quacks and cults encourage their followers in various ways to stay away from certain outside influences. They may preach a strong us versus them narrative which unfairly demonizes outsiders. They may encourage rules limiting contact with outsiders, or even do both. One of the hallmarks of the most famous cults in history, Scientology, Jonestown, the weird old people in the mountains in GTA 5, is their severe enforced social isolation. But in a milder form, this feature exists across countless social groups surrounding pseudoscience in many, if not most, major religions. This is common in multi-level marketing schemes.
I felt like I wasn't allowed to have my personality because it somewhat conflicted with the salesy person. So I do want to read off some things. I've kept a list of them for a while on things that I was actually told in this regard. I heard this a lot, and I think it's kind of that cult mentality that's very scary to people. If you lose friends and family over this, then they were probably not a good friend to begin with.
And like I said, it's present in religions everywhere.
So surely, sister, you can keep friendship with non-Muslim, but whenever there is a friendship between two human beings, always remember, either you are influencing her or she is influencing you. So when you keep friendship with them, behave like a good human being, like a good Muslim, and see to it that you influence them. If you cannot influence them, and if they are influencing you, then I would say that stop the friendship.
These tactics really are used everywhere. Professional quacks and cult leaders use them, but so can regular New Agers and churchgoers. They can be used purposely to manipulate, but are often used unwittingly by well-meaning people. If you want to avoid these tactics' influence, recognize just how common they are and consistently acknowledge your own vulnerabilities when making judgments. You'll never be invulnerable, but realizing that, along with understanding how manipulation works, is a pretty good strategy for avoiding undue influence. Thanks for watching. I've been Drew of Genetically Modified Skeptic. As always, go ahead and subscribe, check out my Patreon, follow me on Twitter and Facebook at GMSkeptic, join my Discord, go buy one of these awesome shirts for my friend Rationality Rules, and until next time, stay skeptical.